Hi, I'm Tori, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Comic Book Story of Video Games by Jonathan Hennessey. So this is another non-fiction graphic novel, so it's not really a novel, it's just a graphic book that is non-fiction, that has all different illustrations in it. And so I picked this up because I don't play video games and I know almost nothing about them, but I really recently read Ready Player One, and so it got me kind of interested about video games, and there were a lot of references to different things from the 80s, games that were popular then, and I thought it would be fun to know a little bit more about that, so I picked this up. So this book actually starts out with a lot of history of different, the history of computer development and the history of like TVs being developed and things like that. And I've read a lot more about the history of computers. So that was my favorite part at the beginning. You know, I recognized some of the people they talked about, some were new to me. And then throughout the book, when they would talk about people who would play games or contribute to their development, there were some computer developers in there who I recognized, and that was really fun. So this book was really focused on each individual person who the different people who developed it. So it was kind of like the who's who of video game development. And so it started back a little before the 50s. One of the earliest people they talk about is Alan Turing and all that. So it starts kind of around there. And it talks about different computer stuff. It talks a little bit about like arcade games and penny arcades and different things like that and how they had been popular. And then it kind of works its way forward. A lot of this stuff was arcade games before anything else happened, and there was a lot of stuff going on at universities because they were the only places that had computers or anything like computers to begin with. So a lot of the playing around that people did, it was the college students who actually had access to that kind of thing. So then it goes pretty slowly up through the late 80s, and then it kind of speeds through. The last chapter is about the 90s up to now. The copyright date is 2017, so this is very recent. I think the most recent thing it mentioned was it made a reference to Pokemon Go coming out in 2016 and talked about that. So it does go right up to pretty current, and so that was really interesting. It had, for people who actually play video games, a lot of the time when it was talking about something historical, then it would have just kind of pictures that I assume are either done in the style of video games or are references to different video game characters. I'm very ignorant about these things, so I didn't quite recognize them, but for someone who did play video games, then they would get to know a lot about that. So I liked learning about the development. It was kind of interesting. I'm very ignorant about gaming, and I was still able to follow this quite well. So if you want to know just a little bit about video games, then I would recommend picking this up.